I was slicing lemons when the call came in. 6:13 p.m. The knife made that faint thud against the cutting board as citrus oil misted my fingertips. I remember that because I looked down and noticed my hand trembling slightly, like I already sensed something was wrong before the screen even glowed. No caller ID. I nearly didn't answer. Thought maybe it was a telemarketer or one of those scam calls that somehow knows exactly when you're at your most fragile. But something in me knew. I picked up. "Evan," she said, and I swear to God, it didn't even sound like her. It was like someone mimicking her voice, mechanical, deliberate, icy. "I'm not coming back." That was it. No explanation, no apology, not even a goodbye. I blinked, looked at the phone. For a second, I thought maybe it dropped the call by accident. Bad reception. Maybe she'd try again. I stood there, the citrus peel sticky between my fingers, waiting for a follow-up text, a second call, anything. But the line had gone dead, and the silence that followed was the most deafening thing I'd ever heard. I didn't move, didn't speak. I just stood there in that too-quiet kitchen with the dim glow of candles flickering like they were ashamed to still be burning. I'd set the table like an idiot, real silverware, cloth napkins folded neatly like we were starring in some kind of sappy home-cooked reconciliation story. I even used that vintage corkscrew we got in Savannah for a bottle of red I'd been saving since before we stopped talking like people who cared about each other. At 34, I thought I could still fix things. Lila had gone on this meditation retreat 2 days ago. Said she needed to recharge. She was 32, always chasing some kind of inner peace. She'd packed light, like she always did, just a duffel bag and that oversized thermos she liked, filled with mint water. I'd offered to drive her. She said she'd Uber. That should have been a warning, but I let it slide. It wasn't an anniversary or anything. I just wanted to remind her, maybe remind myself, that there was still something worth salvaging. That maybe if she walked through the door and saw how hard I was trying, how much I still remembered the things she loved, maybe she'd stop seeing me as the guy who left his shoes by the couch and start seeing the man she married again. But now, the shoes were the only proof anyone had ever lived here. I didn't cry. Not right away. I just stood there, motionless, my hand clenching around the phone like I could force her voice back out of it. The whiskey glass sat on the counter, one cube of ice halfway melted, sweating in the soft light. She always teased me for taking it straight but said she liked the way I made hers. Just a hint of citrus, she used to say, like it was some sacred tradition. I always remembered that. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I sat down at the table across from the empty chair I'd pulled out for her, staring at the casserole cooling on her plate. She always liked it slightly charred on the edges, said it reminded her of the way her mom used to make it when they were too broke to afford anything fancy. I'd gone out of my way to crisp the top layer for her, and now it was just sitting there, pointless, like a stage prop abandoned after the actors walked off. I left everything as it was. Didn't clean up, didn't eat, didn't drink. Just wandered through the townhouse like a specter. Later that night, I opened the fridge, and there it was, her oat milk, unsweetened hazelnut. She always claimed it helped her sleep better. I stared at it like it was some alien artifact, like it didn't belong to either of us anymore. My hand hovered there for a long moment before I shut the door. Couldn't throw it out. Couldn't touch it. It felt toxic. Grief didn't hit me like a tsunami. It came in pieces, in murmurs, seeping through the cracks of things, like when I found one of her socks under the couch, all bunched up and worn at the heel. Or when her phone charger was still plugged into the wall next to the bed. Little remnants she hadn't bothered to take. Or maybe didn't think she'd need any more. She'd left while I was still holding space for her. That's the part no one prepares you for. Not the leaving, not even the betrayal. It's the quiet afterward, the unanswered questions folded into everyday objects. The jacket still hanging on the coat rack. Her hair tangled in the bristles of a brush she didn't pack. The way her scent lingered on the sheets long after she was gone, like the bed itself hadn't gotten the memo. I tried to sleep that night, but every time I closed my eyes, I'd hear her voice in that flat, rehearsed tone. "I'm not coming back." Like she was reading it off a script, like someone had coached her through it. And maybe they did. I don't know how long I lay there, staring at the ceiling, waiting for my chest to stop feeling like it was collapsing. There was no dramatic breakdown, no throwing things, no shouting, just silence. The kind of silence that wraps around you like plastic and makes it hard to breathe. By morning, everything looked the same. The dishes in the sink. The faint outline of her coffee mug on the counter. The windows still fogged the way they always did in early spring. Nothing had changed. And yet everything had. I didn't call her. I didn't chase. I just made coffee for one and sat on the back steps, staring into the gray sky like maybe it could tell me what the hell just happened. The world kept turning. The neighborhood kids shrieked down the sidewalk on their scooters. My phone buzzed with useless notifications. And I sat there, feeling like the only person who remembered the house was half full just yesterday. We used to joke that winter in Wisconsin never really ends. It just hides for a few weeks and comes back with more venom. That week was one of those false springs, when the air pretends to warm just long enough to trick you into hope. I spent most of it walking around the townhouse barefoot like a fool, as if pretending I was warm might actually make it true. The day after Lila's call, I went to work, sat through meetings, responded to emails, gave my standard, "Yeah, things are fine," when coworkers asked how I was doing. No one suspected a thing. That's the wild part. You can be completely hollow inside and still pass for functional. It's all about facial expressions and timing. Nod when someone laughs. Smile when they make eye contact. Keep your voice steady. People only notice when you stop playing the part. But every time I came home, I felt it, that shift in the air, that subtle pressure, like something was missing, and the walls couldn't quite hold their shape without it. She took more than just her duffel bag. When she left, it was like the soul of the place vanished. I started talking to myself, not in a crazy way, just quietly, like I was filling the silence with something less hostile than my thoughts. I'd say things out loud like, "Gotta take the trash out," or, "Don't forget to cancel the subscription." It helped a little. I also stopped sleeping in our bed. Couldn't do it. Instead, I moved to the couch and surrounded myself with the ambient noise of shows I wasn't really watching. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. to the TV asking if I was still there. "No, Netflix, I'm not." There was this moment, I think it was Thursday, when I came home and found one of her hairs on my denim shirt, long, auburn, curled at the end. I stood there, just staring at it like it was some relic from a past life. Part of me wanted to save it, which I know is foolish, but I didn't. I watched it fall to the floor, then stepped on it without looking back. It wasn't that I stopped missing her. It's just that I started missing someone who wasn't real, the version of her I'd held onto, even while the real Lila had been slipping away for months. I think the lies started long before that retreat. I just didn't want to see it. She used to go on these weekend trips, little solo getaways, she said, to stay centered. At first, I respected that. We all need space, right? But after a while, they became more frequent. She always came back radiant, refreshed, but slightly detached, like she'd been living a whole other life I wasn't invited into. I asked questions, gentle ones at first. "How was it? Did you meet anyone interesting?" But her answers were vague. "Oh, just the usual. Lots of reflection." And every time I pressed a little harder, she'd throw up a wall of defensiveness that made me feel like the bad guy for asking. So I stopped asking. I didn't want to be that husband, the insecure, suspicious one. I thought trusting her was the right thing to do. But looking back, I wonder if I confused trust with denial. There was this night a few months before she left. We were watching some documentary about off-grid cabins. And she said, "Wouldn't it be crazy to just vanish and start over somewhere new?" I laughed at the time, said something dumb like, "Only if you take me with you." She didn't laugh. She just looked at the screen and said, "I think about it a lot." I didn't ask what she meant. I didn't want to know. It's funny how memory works. After she left, I started replaying every little moment like it was evidence in a trial. Her late-night phone calls in the bathroom. The way she started locking her laptop when she stepped away. The extra showers. The perfume she only used when I wasn't around. I wanted to blame someone, her, obviously, but also myself for being blind, for making excuses, for loving someone more than they deserved. One night, I got drunk, properly drunk, for the first time in years. I downed the rest of that whiskey, skipped the lemon. No ritual this time. I sat on the balcony with a blanket over my shoulders like some old man and listened to the city hum in the distance. That's when the call came in. Another blocked number. I didn't answer, just stared at the screen until it stopped ringing. Maybe it was her. Maybe it wasn't. I didn't care. The next morning, I started changing things. Not big things at first. I deleted her streaming profiles. Threw out her half-used skincare products from the bathroom. Took down the Polaroid from our first road trip, the one where we stood in front of that faded Route 66 sign, and she swore we'd come back every year. The box with our wedding photos stayed sealed under the bed. I couldn't touch that yet. That felt like a different lifetime. But I knew I had to make a choice, sit in the ruins or start clearing the debris. By the weekend, I had a to-do list taped to the fridge: replace the mattress, donate her bike, repaint the bedroom. It wasn't anger driving me. It was necessity, survival. You don't wait for someone to rescue you from a fire they started. You crawl out however you can. Even if your hands are trembling, even if part of you still hopes to see them standing there on the other side of the smoke. But they're not. They never were. The mattress went first. Not just the sheets, those had already been stripped and thrown into a trash bag 2 days after she left. But the whole damn thing. I didn't even care that it was still perfectly fine. I dragged it down the stairs myself, hitting every wall and corner on the way, and left it slumped on the curb like a body I couldn't bury. It wasn't a rage thing. It wasn't a screw you moment. It was surgical, methodical. That bed held too many ghosts. You don't heal in a place where every inch of fabric remembers who you used to be. I slept on the floor that night, no pillow, just a blanket and the creak of the house settling into the new silence. And for the first time in weeks, I actually slept. After that, I kept going. I tossed the stainless steel pans she swore by. They hold heat better, she used to say, as if I didn't know that already. I replaced them with simple cast iron, heavy, blunt, honest. No shine, no pretense. Next were the framed photos, one by one: Charleston, Aspen, that wedding in Maine where we danced barefoot in the grass. All of them came down. I didn't smash them, didn't burn them. I just wrapped them in towels and shoved them into a box labeled "Don't Open." I found her old bike in the garage, the one she kept saying she'd fix up but never did. Hauled it over to the community center donation drop before I could second guess myself. Some other girl would ride it someday. Good for her. The woven wall hangings came down, too. She told everyone they were handmade. She ordered them on Etsy. I remember because I was the one who signed for the package. I repainted the living room white, not for symbolism, just because I wanted something blank, something clean. No more muted sage tones. I didn't need the space to feel cozy. I needed it to stop whispering her name every time I turned on the lights. Each change felt like a small exorcism. Her playlist, deleted. Her Spotify login, wiped from the TV. I even reset the router just to break the Wi-Fi history. She was gone, and I didn't want the air itself to remember her. Then I found the box. It was buried in the closet under old winter coats and board games we hadn't touched in years. A simple cardboard thing with duct tape around the edges. At first, I thought it was one of my old memory boxes. I used to keep concert tickets and postcards and junk like that. But this one wasn't mine. Inside were photos. Not of us, not even of her by herself. Photos of her with someone else. Same guy, same smile, different outfits, different seasons. They weren't selfies. These were taken with care, with intention, her head on his shoulder, laughing, holding hands, sitting close in cafes. That tender look she used to give me when we were still new. Some of the photos were dated. One of them had a ticket stub taped to the back, January. That was the same weekend she told me she was visiting her sister in Milwaukee. I sat down on the floor, box between my knees, and felt this strange wave of stillness wash over me. Not sadness, not anger, just a kind of stark clarity. This wasn't just an exit. This had been an escape plan. The relationship hadn't ended when she made that call. It had ended months ago, maybe even longer. I just hadn't gotten the memo. And the worst part? She'd saved those photos, kept them like souvenirs, like trophies, hidden in the same house where we used to sleep back to back in uneasy silence, both pretending not to notice how far apart we drifted. I didn't hesitate. I didn't give myself time to spiral. I closed the box, walked it out to the patio, and dumped everything into the fire pit. I didn't even need lighter fluid, just a match. The flames caught quick. I watched the past curl and blacken and vanish into smoke. One photo folded in on itself before turning to ash, her face caught mid-laugh, the guy's hand just barely visible around her waist. The smoke stung my eyes, but I didn't look away. When it was done, I didn't feel victorious. I felt empty, but it was a clean kind of empty, like when you finally finish moving out of an apartment and everything echoes. The next morning, I stripped what was left of her from the house in one last sweep, her scarves in the closet, her oat shampoo, that damn ceramic mug with the chipped handle she loved for no reason at all. Gone. I boxed it all up, left it on the front steps, and sent her a text with a single word, outside. She didn't reply. She didn't need to. I wasn't trying to make a statement. I was just done. No more holding space. No more waiting for explanations. No more building a life around someone who had already packed their things emotionally long before their body followed. I went out and bought a new bed, not a couple's bed, just a firm twin with no headboard and no history. It arrived the next day, and I slept like the dead. And when I woke up, I didn't think about her first. I thought about what groceries I needed, whether I had time to hit the gym, whether it would rain. She wasn't the air anymore. She wasn't the echo in the room. She was just gone. And I was still here, still standing. A month passed quietly. No explosions, no dramatic returns, just days stacked on top of each other, silent and uneventful. I didn't miss her the way I thought I would. I missed the idea of her, the idea of us, that fake future we used to talk about where we'd move to the coast and open some quirky little bookstore cafe that only sold cold brew and used novels. I think she said it once, half joking, but I clung to that idea for years like it was scripture. The apartment stopped smelling like her. I scrubbed everything, curtains, couch cushions, even the grout in the bathroom tiles. I replaced the candles she used to light with a scent that didn't remind me of soft amber or eucalyptus fields or any of that wellness nonsense she liked. Now the place smelled like pine and grapefruit, sharp, clean. She still hadn't reached out. Not directly. But mutual friends started poking around. Not many, we didn't have a big shared circle, and I always kept a little distance. But I got a text from her old friend Mara, asking how I was holding up, real casual, unassuming. I responded with a simple, fine. Left it at that. Then one Friday night, late, after midnight, there was a knock. Not the kind of knock you get from delivery drivers or neighbors. This one was tentative, anxious, the kind of knock that says, please don't open, but I hope you do anyway. I opened it. And there she was. Lila. Same gentle eyes, same tousled hair, but different somehow, smaller, diminished. She didn't say anything right away, just stood there, hugging her arms like the cold had followed her all the way from wherever she'd been. I didn't move. I didn't invite her in. Can I come inside? She asked. Her voice was faint, like she hadn't used it much lately. I looked past her, no bags, no car in the driveway, just her and a thin coat. I stepped aside without saying a word. She walked in slowly, like she was afraid the walls might reject her. She looked around like a stranger, eyes darting to the white walls, the new furniture, the rearranged layout. It's different, she said. I nodded. It had to be. She sat down on the edge of the couch, careful not to touch anything. I stood, arms crossed, leaning against the wall. I didn't know where else to go, she said. That line. God, that line. She wasn't here because she missed me. She was here because the world she ran to had collapsed. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. I could read it all over her face. The man, whoever he was was gone. Maybe he ghosted her. Maybe he moved on. Maybe he was never hers to begin with. She started talking in circles, telling half-stories about how things didn't work out the way she expected, how she thought she had more time, how she didn't know what she was doing. I listened quietly. She looked up at me, tears starting to form, and said, "I made a mistake." And I swear, in that moment, I felt nothing. Not hate, not pity, just distance. Like I was watching a play, like she wasn't real anymore, just a memory auditioning for a role in my life she'd already been fired from. "I thought you had it all figured out," I said. "You didn't sound unsure on the phone." She winced. I didn't know how to say it. I panicked. I thought what? That I'd wait around? She opened her mouth to argue but then closed it. Her silence said more than her apologies ever could. We sat in that stillness for a while. She didn't ask for forgiveness, not outright. She knew better. But there was something in her posture, in the way she looked at me, like she wanted to be saved without asking. I didn't offer her that. "Why did you come back?" I asked finally. Her voice cracked. "Because there's nowhere else that feels like home." That hit me, but not in the way she probably hoped. "You left," I said. "You set fire to home, and now you're cold." She started to cry then, real tears, hands shaking, shoulders curling inward like she was trying to fold herself out of existence. I didn't reach for her. I didn't move. I let her cry. Eventually, she stood, wiped her eyes, looked around one more time, probably hoping to see some trace of herself still here. But there was nothing left. "You seem different," she said. "I am." She nodded, like she already knew that would be the answer. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know." She hesitated in the doorway, like maybe she thought this was the part where I'd cave, invite her to stay, offer a blanket, a couch, a second chance. I didn't. She left. And I locked the door behind her. Not out of anger, but because you don't leave the past cracked open like a window during a storm. You shut it. You make sure it stays shut. 2 weeks later, I got a message from Elise, Lila's friend, though I never really liked calling her that. She was more of a background character in our lives, always around but never too close. The kind of person who sees everything and says nothing until she does. The message was short: "I think you deserve to know the truth." I stared at it for a long time, not sure I had the energy for more truth, but I replied. She called that same night. It wasn't a dramatic call, no gasps or sobs, just a quiet voice laying down bricks of reality, one after another. Lila hadn't made a mistake. She hadn't stumbled into some whirlwind affair and realized too late she loved the wrong person. No, according to Elise, she'd planned it slowly, methodically, testing the waters behind my back while keeping just enough warmth in the house to keep me believing. "She thought you'd take her back," Elise said, almost apologetically. "She told us you were too loyal to leave. That you'd be mad, sure, but you wouldn't walk away. That's why she saved those photos. That's why she came back. You were Plan B. Plan B." Like I was the emergency exit on a plane she boarded without looking back. I didn't ask Elise why she was telling me all this now. I think I knew. She'd seen Lila crash and burn, seen her try to slink her way back into my life like nothing had happened, and something inside her finally snapped. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was just disgust. But either way, I appreciated it. I didn't reply to Lila after that. She sent one more message a few days later, just a single sentence: "I still love you." I didn't respond. What was there left to say? By then, the divorce papers were already in the mail, no note, no warning, just a plain white envelope sent to her mom's address in Ohio. It didn't need explanation. She'd understand exactly what it meant. I signed the papers in silence at my kitchen table, no music, no drink, no ceremony, just initials, dates, and a name I no longer recognized scribbled across the bottom line. And that was it. I started rebuilding. I bought a new table, simple, clean wood, nothing fancy, something that felt like mine. Hung up paintings from local artists I found at the flea market downtown. Took a solo trip up to Vermont and burned what was left of our wedding vows on a quiet beach at sunset, just me, the ocean, and a wind that didn't ask any questions. I deleted her name from every folder, every backup, every digital trace. Old photos, cloud accounts, playlists, gone. Not in bitterness, just necessity. I didn't need reminders. I didn't need scars disguised as memories. As for my dad, he called again, said the bank had been trying to reach him, that there was a situation with one of the joint accounts. I told him it was handled, that I'd already pulled my name weeks before. He got quiet, then said, "You really mean that?" I said, "Good luck." And hung up. Same words I used last time. This time, I think he finally understood what they meant. There's this myth that healing is some kind of transformation, that one day you wake up stronger, smarter, better. That's not how it works. Healing is boring. It's routine. It's folding laundry without crying. It's making coffee in the morning without expecting 2 mugs. It's forgetting her birthday and realizing it 2 days later and not caring. I don't walk around with a scar on my chest. I walk around with space, and I fill it with things that don't lie, music that doesn't hurt, friends that ask how I'm really doing, late night walks without checking my phone, Sundays without pretending. I don't hate her. That part surprised me. I thought I would, but hate takes energy, and I've got better things to spend it on. If you came looking for a redemption arc, there isn't one, not for her, not even really for me. There's just this: I survived it. And I never let her come back to finish what she started.